In this lesson, we'll talk about iterating backwards, or in other words, starting our iterator variable at a higher number and decreasing it until it gets to a lower number. When might we want to use this in the context of our Excel spreadsheet? The perfect use case for this is whenever we need to delete rows. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to define a column of random values. Let's just populate it with random numbers for now. So I'll put a 1 in here, a 2 in here. I'm going to click this and drag this all the way down to, let's say, row 15. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace some of these numeric values with the keyword delete. It doesn't really matter what we put in here, but what I want to do is some kind of marker that's going to indicate that a row should be deleted. Of course, whenever you're writing business logic for your own spreadsheets, it might be that the row or cell is empty. It might have some kind of value. It might be an invalid calculation. For this case, just for simplicity's sake, we can pretend that the delete keyword means that the entire row should be deleted. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that we have 2 deletes in a row. I'll explain why in a second. Let's put a couple more deletes just scattered throughout here. All right, so we want to write a macro that's going to iterate across these rows and delete whichever rows have the value delete in column A. So you might think that we can just write a regular for loop that's going to go from row number 1, or a value of I equal to 1, all the way to row 15, which we can dynamically calculate, and delete that way. And that'll work sometimes, but it's not going to work all the time. It's actually going to run into an error. And let me show you what's going to happen. Let's say we get onto row number 2. We're using a variable of I equals 2. Let's say we reference cells. That's going to be able to give us the row 2, column 1. So we'll do something like cells I, comma 1. That's going to reference this one. We're going to be able to select that row and delete it no problem. So imagine we're going through our macro or our procedure and our I is equal to 2. What's going to happen is this first deletion is going to work, but whenever we delete, everything is going to climb up 1 row. And at this point, delete is still present again in cell A2 because it's the delete from the line below. But our I variable at this point has completed the entire process of the for loop, the body of the for loop to be more specific. So I at this point is going to increment to 3 and then move on to the cell below. So what's going to happen is whenever we have more than one delete criteria in a row, it's actually going to skip the second one because it's going to essentially accidentally pass over it because the deletion of a row is going to move everything up while our I variable is not going to be aware of it and simply increment to move on to the next row. Let me just go through that example one more time because it's a little bit of a complex procedure. The very first time, let me just write it over here. Let's pretend our I variable right now is equal to 2. I'm going to put it in bold right here. So when we get to row 2, we're going to be able to select this row and delete it. Now when we delete a row, nothing happens with our I variable. I is still equal to 2, right? Because it's a value that's stored exclusively in our procedure. It has no knowledge of the actual Excel interface. So I is still equal to 2, and then I is going to be incremented to 3. It's going to move on to this row because this is cell 3-1, and this delete that was there, that was moved up, is no longer going to be caught and we're accidentally going to miss a row. It's for that reason that we have to make sure that whenever we're deleting values, we're going to actually move from the bottom all the way to the top. This is a constant. So whenever you need to delete rows from a worksheet, you always start from the last row and you proceed to the top one. That way, for example, when we get to this row, even if we have, well, even a better example is right here, even if we get to this row and we delete it, when we move up, we know that we're going to capture each delete in sequence. We're not going to have the problem of cells accidentally moving up and being accidentally not caught by our iteration. So let's write the actual procedure that's going to iterate from the bottom up and delete all of the deletes, all the rows that have delete in this spreadsheet. So I'll begin by running a procedure. I'll call it delete rows. Let's put an end sub right there. Perfect. The first thing I want to do is to actually find out the last row. We can declare a variable for that. Let's call it final row. It's going to be a long, it's going to be a whole number. You may remember this syntax from a few sections ago, but it's going to be final row equals. We're going to use the cells property to return a range of a specific cell, and we want to reference the cell at the most bottom left of our spreadsheet. We can get the very last row in our spreadsheet with rows.count. That's going to return us a number that's something like 1,048,000 something. Then we'll reference column A, or column number 1, with number 1. So this is going to return us the bottom left cell of our spreadsheet. At that point, we want to use the end property. We want to give it an argument of xCellUp. This is going to simulate clicking the end key and pressing the up button, which is going to take us to the very last row with data in our spreadsheet, to be more specific, the cell that has that data in column 1. And then once we have that cell, which in this case is going to be cell A15, we actually want to get the numeric value of the row, which we can extract with the row property. So this is going to make final row equal to 15, but it's only going to be 15 in this case. What's really great about this code is if tomorrow we have twice as many lines, it's going to dynamically set final row to whatever is the last row with data. Our next step is to actually write the iteration, which is going to go from row 15, or the final row, all the way to the first row. So right here, we can begin by declaring our iterator variable. I'm going to stick with I again. Let's make it a long. Our setup is going to be a little bit different this time. This time, we're going to dynamically assign I its first value, which we know should be the final row, which is 15. So we can actually just write final row here. Remember that a variable is just a placeholder for a value, and final row in this case is going to be equal to 15. So we can start out I at a value of 15, and then we want to go all the way to row number 1. That's going to be the last row that we want to work with. There's just going to be one problem here. This is not going to work by default because, of course, we're starting I at 15 and we want it to go to 1, and we can't do that because the default behavior for a for loop is to iterate the iterator variable by 1, which would take 15 to 16 and then run into all kinds of problems because we actually want it to move in reverse. So the way we solve for this problem is we use the step keyword, but this time, instead of giving it a positive value, we want to give it a negative value. And the negative value represents how much we want to decrement or decrement I as we're proceeding through each section of the for loop. So let me conclude this with the next I. So what's going to happen here is I is going to start at 15. The entire body or block of the for loop is going to execute whatever we put in here. And then once that step is done, we're going to decrement I by this value. So I is going to go from 15 to 14 to 13 to 12 to 11, all the way down to 1. And of course, if we wanted to decrement in a different interval, for example, decrease it by 5 each time so that we can go from 15 to 10 to 5, etc., we would just put -5 here. So what do we want to do here? What we want to do here is first check the value and see if it's actually equal to delete. So we can do cells. We know that I represents our row. We know that the column that we are always checking in is column 1. And what we actually want to do is wrap this in an if statement, because our deletion is going to be based on a conditional statement. Only if the value is delete in this cell do we want to delete. So if the current value in column 1, column A, is equal to delete, make sure it's case sensitive, we'll put an end keyword here. Remember that we have to close this off with an end if. So we're specifying within each iteration, we're going to check the current value in the cell. So it's going to proceed like this on the left-hand side. If it's equal to delete, well, then we want to select that cell. Same thing as the code above. We want to select the entire row. We have that property available on a range object. And on that, we also have a delete method that's going to delete the entire row. So what's going to happen here is we're going to begin at 15. 15 is not equal to delete, so we're going to decrement by 1, move to a value of I of 14. That's going to reference cells 14.1. This cell, it is equal to delete, so this is going to execute cells 14.1, select the entire row, and then essentially perform the process of deleting. And what's going to happen again when we get to cell number 3, or row number 3 rather, this is going to delete. It's not going to be a problem because 4 is going to move back up. We're not going to have any kind of issues. And then when we proceed to row 2, that process is going to repeat. And even if you have more than 2 deletes in a row, if we have as many as we want, we're not going to run into any problems. So let's go ahead and execute this code and see if it works. Everything looks good to me right here. So F5 to execute this. And we can see all of the deletes have been successfully removed. And you can even see that the 2 deletes in a row, which were rows 2 and 3, have had their values removed. So let's just give you an example here where we have a whole bunch of deletes in a row. What's really great about this macro, of course, is that it's dynamically able to figure out the final row. That's what we have right here. So we can continue running it even if we have a smaller data set than we started with. So right now we're going to start at the final row of 9. It is delete, it is delete, it is delete, it is delete. It's going to continue deleting that all the way. So it should only see these 4 numbers at the end. We're going to execute this. There we go. Let me just show you again. Let's just put delete here, delete here. Doesn't really matter how many of them we have in sequence or separate from each other. No problem deleting them. That's all there is to cover here. In this lesson, we talked about using a negative argument to step to the step keyword. That allows us to actually decrement I as we proceed to the for loop. So if we ever want to do something in reverse order, we want to take I from a bigger number to a smaller number in a certain interval, we can use the step keyword with a negative argument. We are not limited to -1. We can provide -3, -5. We can do whatever interval we want to use. And the primary use case for this is whenever we want to delete rows. The reason we want to do that is because if we proceed downwards when deleting rows, we might miss specific rows as they move up because our I variable is still going to stay the same, and it's not going to be able to realize that rows have moved up. This problem will be avoided if you loop from the bottom all the way to the top. So remember, whenever you are deleting rows, always move from the very bottom to the top. We also did a quick review of how we're able to get dynamically the last row of data. We just assigned that to final row by using the cells property to reference the most bottom left cell of a spreadsheet. We then use the end property to simulate a end key press and going all the way up, which will take us to the very last row of data dynamically. We're getting that row, and that way this macro stays pretty flexible. You just saw a couple examples where no matter how many extra rows of data we had, it was able to perform the process as intended. That's all there is to cover here. I'll see you in the next lesson.